mic, camera, action.
Repeat after me. I will never steal from the weak and the vulnerable again.
I'll never steal from the weak and vulnerable again.
To help you keep that promise, now I'm gonna burn this place to the ground. Might be a good time to go home.
It's gas! Fucking psycho! It's gas! It's gas! It's gas! Hey! What the fuck? Bro? What the fuck you think you're doing?
I'm a beekeeper to protect the hive. Sometimes I use fire to smoke out hornets.
This is a multi-million-dollar operation, asshole. Okay, so you can't come up here white knighting shit. Will you stomp his ass out, please?
Welcome back to the Filmography, the show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue, from past debut through to present day, in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest, or guests to watch and discuss the next entry from the focused filmography, and consider how it ranks amidst their career, and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. For episode 46, the final single film focus episode of season 1, I'm joined once again by Stath superfan Glyn and the incomparable Spider-Man, or Spider-Dan, my very first guest returning to bookend this inaugural season to discuss the 46th big screen appearance of the Stath in the, I'm going to say, overachieving The Beekeeper. We watch, you listen, and hopefully watch along too. So, gentlemen, it's nice to have two people on to say goodbye to the Stath. I guess the question that I'm going to open the show with is whether we think The Beekeeper is a worthy way to draw this filmography retrospective to a close.
Well,
I'm absolutely buzzing to be here. So,
okay. Here he is. He's here. I told you.
We got it in early. We got the first one.
Go on, Glyn. You tell us. You tell us if it's a worthy entry.
I mean, I think it's pretty fantastic in regards to Stath films. I think it's definitely one of his best. It can't be any worse than Expendables 4, can it? So it definitely had easy shoes to fill, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, listen, let's be thankful like one more came out before I did get to the end of this podcast. Absolutely. That would have been a really depressing way to have drawn this first actor's focus to a close. So yeah, you're right. I'm very thankful for it in that regard. Yeah.
What do I think? Is it a worthy entry? I think if you're looking for like Stath, if you're looking for the Stath, which this podcast has, documented this evolution of this persona, I think this is a very much the Stath film. Like if you're looking for that idea that he's grown and that persona he's adopted, I think this is one of the definitely the stronger versions of that, and him showcasing that side of his performing wheelhouse.
I will say that obviously I'm in my intro I wrote this overachieving, so it's clear that I think there's a lot of good things about this. I just think that perhaps it overperformed in terms of what its expectations, I think, is what I'm getting at, really. I think this is one of those kind of mid-level, lower-tier Stath entries, but it just seemed to, for some reason, really hit and really land when it came out at the start of the year. So maybe that was a reaction to Expendables 4. Maybe I'm trying to, whether it's been a while since we'd had this kind of, I guess we had John Wick 4 like during 2023, but I'm wondering if we if either of you can think of any reasons why you think that perhaps this one hit so successfully in that normally dead mid-January market.
I mean, very quickly, I'd just like to say that it's definitely no John Wick 4. So John Wick 4 is definitely the better movie out of those two. But I mean, for me, I think it hit because with Statham, a lot of his fight scenes, the cameras are quite they're quite choppy, and you miss a lot of the fighting. But the choreography in this, I think, is probably the best in his movies, because when you see the fight, you rarely see the fight, and you see everything that's going on.
Well, it's directed by David Ayer, isn't it? Who's I think he's quite handy. Like, say what you will about Suicide Squad, but I think his, you know, if you look at stuff like End of Watch and like his camera work and the way he, you know, choreographs those sequences, I think are really solid, really, really good. So I think he knows what he's doing in regards to putting the camera in the right place and moving it around. And again, you talked about it on the podcast we just did over on Secret Boars about like the, you know, placing that camera kind of where you want it and making sure we know the geography of the characters in relation to where the other characters are at. We know the kind of like that storytelling. And I think that is here. I think that you see a lot of that through his direction. I don't think he's a poor director. You still with us?
Yeah. Is it me that went? Is it? Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Don't worry. Yeah, I was just saying about David Ayer and his kind of camera work and stuff. Yeah, just I think that's one of the stronger elements this film has, is the way it's kind of edited, shot, and the cinematography. I think is really quite top tier.
Yeah, when you mentioned End of Watch is a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. He can do it. Like, he can definitely do it. I don't, you know, Bright wasn't my favorite and Suicide Squad wasn't my favorite, but when he gets something and he's, you know, fully in control of it, I think you do get some like solid films out of David Ayer.
Yeah, Tony Freeney's a big fan. I go backwards and forwards on him. I think he's fine. I think what he does solidly, but actually I think what he does well here, and I'm agreeing with you, Glyn, and I'm agreeing with you, Dan, that actually the two things are coming together. He is utilizing what he can do to best showcase what the Stath can do. I think that's what's happening here. And they've got a really good, I agree, Glyn, a really good stunt coordinating team. I was just desperately trying to like scroll through as you guys were talking, trying to find out names, but it's always so hard. I know we said it several times on the show. So hard sometimes to find out the names of stunt coordinators or like who's in charge of that. But it looks like it might be somebody called Eddie Fernandez, who is not a name that I'm familiar with. But yeah, they keep the action precise and streamlined and quick. And I think that's my favorite kind of stay fighting. Dan, you and I have done all the transporters. And when he's kind of tactical like that and he just sort of takes people down with like almost like minimal of movements or minimal fuss, it's not too showy. It's all about the kind of precision and getting the guy down as quickly as possible. I think they're my favorite Stath type action scenes.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. Just like and again, it's very clear kinetics, precise. I don't know if there's like, is it like Krav Maga, which is quite like that? I know Glyn's got more, you know, I think you were a bouncer, weren't you, Glyn, back in the day?
Yeah.
You know how to kind of handle yourself. I don't know if there's like a specific form of martial art which is quite direct and quick and like it's about getting them down as quickly as possible and having them like stay down. I can't remember which like type of martial art that would be.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Krav Maga is the best one because it's all close contact and get someone down and make sure they stay down. Go for the throat that's going to incapacitate them straight away, and just trying to get them down in one go so you don't have to carry on sort of taking them on again. Really,
that's Jason Bourne fighting, isn't it? Krav Maga.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can see that definitely in his movements and again, like you don't like it's quick, but you see every movement and you feel every movement, and even though it's like, you know, lightning fast, you still know what's happened, how it's occurred, and you see each piece of the jigsaw put together in the choreography, which I really enjoy, like each step. But again, it's not like step 1, step 2, step 3. It's all like, foom, 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 done. fight
It's
over.
fluid and it's fast, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and Stath has been doing that since we've started. Since you've started this podcast, really. It's transport onwards almost is like, shoom, and yeah, he knows what he does well now, and I think that certainly has helped his career and this kind of, and it clearly helps again with this film and it kind of overperforming where they didn't expect it to as well.
Yeah, I mean, 40 million budget and it made 152 million worldwide, which, off that budget and with the kind of the talk of air, it's in the air is still quite negative, I think. So, to the point where they're already talking about a sequel, they're already reteaming for another movie along with Stallone. Actually, he's writing the script and Ayres directing and Stace starring in it. It's going to be called Levon's Trade. So something's gelled here, really interestingly, that they immediately want to work together again. And Sly has got the script that they both want to jump on. And obviously we know Stath and Stallone have been close ever since he cast him in Expendables. So yeah, there's something's just gone right here, hasn't it? And they want to capitalize on that. They want to keep that going, clearly.
I mean, I think if they're going to make more Beekeepers, judging by, prequels would make more sense because he's supposed to be retired. So there's a lot of stories he could tell if they went back before he retired. But I suppose it's up to them what they do. But
yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? But I mean, the Stath is another one of these like perennially young-looking people. He's 56 now, I think, maybe 57. He doesn't look it at all, but I'm not sure he looks 35 either. So yeah, I'm not sure. And I wouldn't want them to recast. Like I've watched that Transporter Reloaded or Recalibrated or whatever the hell that was called, and that was
the third one was bad enough for me. I'm not going for any reboots or requels or whatever. Weird you mentioned that because I read today that Jackie Chan is putting a movie together where they're putting in like him as a de-aged version of himself. And he's done like a weird kind of like presentational thing, like look at my film and look at this amazing technology. I bet it's AI related in some form. But yeah, it's just odd that you mentioned that now. It just came to my head then. Maybe he's trying to recapture his youth in some way. I don't know. But yeah, odd. I think they're quite vague about the bit like they I'll be honest, like they are quite heavy-handed with the bee theme. I like they can't move for every 2 minutes without mentioning something about bees or some iconography or honey or hives, or they get the
hornets
book out, and queen slayers. They really lean heavy on
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus, yeah, just all of it. It's like, oh, do you know this about bees? I don't give a fuck about bees. What are you talking about? I don't know why you're talking. I was kind of like
beat some more people up.
Yeah, I was kind of like the male detective in this, where he's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Why do you care? What is going on? Bees? What? What are you talking about? Explosive honey? What? Flammable honey? Okay, sure. But I think they're quite vague about the vague enough about the Beekeepers. So if they could or want to do more, they could grow on it. And you've already mentioned like John Wick. I've not seen John Wick 4. I don't think I have anyway. But I actually, one of my issues with this is that I think it's trying a little bit too much to be the next John Wick. That's my main issue with the film. Again, and it's full of, I'll be honest, it's full of cliches. It is full of like action movie cliches. Don't get me wrong, they are cliches I enjoy, but they are cliches. Like you've got the Rambo or the John Wick speech, which is basically like, you really don't know who you just fucked with, basically. And it's the whole like, he does this, he's trained this, he's killed Navy SEALs, all that sort of shit. And he's the best of the best and on all that. And it's just like, and the bad guys are like, oh God, what have we done? And again, really, and it's really an enjoyable cliche. Don't get me wrong, I love that moment in Rambo and John Wick and that, but part of me was like, we've got this weird, shady, underworld type thing that we don't know much about. We know very vaguely what it is. It's connected to things, but it's not connected. And there's people that are operating outside of any jurisdictions, but they're still within the jurisdictions, and it goes as high as the president. But yeah, I think they're vague enough where a sequel could still be possible, or maybe Statham creates his own version of the Beekeepers. Maybe starts it from scratch. There are those kind of elements there, and I think that's why they were deliberately vague about it, because they didn't want to like figure out how it works, like the Continental in John Wick and that whole kind of underworld thing, because it does grow incrementally in each John Wick film. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do that with the Beekeepers, or maybe there is like another group like the Hornet's Nest, which is some other group from like Eastern Europe or something. They're the Hornet's Nest, and they've always been at war. There's been a Cold War or something. I don't know. I'm just riffing on kind of ideas it could be, but I think because of the deliberate vagueness, there is potential for sequels.
See, what I got from this, and forgive me if I'm wrong, is they made out that a beekeeper doesn't even answer to the president, because they spoke about bees killing the queen. So he's essentially above everything, and he can do anything he wants and make any decision that he wants, is what I got from the movie, which obviously could never work.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like Shield, isn't it? Like in the Avengers, Shield doesn't, even though they're always hovering over New York like every other superhero. They're like, oh, we don't answer to the American government or NATO or or Russia or anything. We're purely a kind of peacekeeping organization for the entire world. And how do you navigate that? Where do you intervene? When do you don't? But he basically like, Jason Statham could just do whatever the fuck he wants, and I think that's basically how I would treat Jason Statham as well. I was like, I'm like, do whatever you want, mate. I don't care. I don't mind. Just don't hit me, please. Not in the face. Not in the face. I'd be quite happy with him going off and doing whatever. I trust him that he'd hurt the right people and do the right thing. So I'd be like, off you go, mate. I'll leave you to it.
All the bits where he was like, he was born and then he disappeared, I couldn't help but start thinking of like Steven Seagal and stuff, where someone says that he was born fully grown, and I got sort of Steven Seagal sort of hints there when he said he was born and then he disappeared, and I was like, he must have a military record. He's been somewhere.
There was a line that made me think of Jean-Claude Van Damme films, because
100%.
He's got an American accent, and then the female police officer goes, I hear a bit of like, I can't remember where she says in England, but like Midwest England or something. I can't remember what she says, but she says, oh yeah, I hear a little bit of England in your voice, and then that's like, right, that's explained his accent away immediately. Like, because in every like Jean-Claude Van Damme film, you've got to explain his accent away, and even with Arnie films as well, it's like, he's an all-American guy, but he's got a German accent. How do we work this out? How does this happen? So I and again, it's an enjoyable cliche for me. Again, it's a tried and tested action movie cliche, but I did have some fun with it.
I think it's the first time this has ever happened in a Stath movie.
Really?
That they've called out the shit accent that he does. Let's be honest. The America somewhere, America everywhere, like broadest possible, with definite slips back into Stath faux Cockney with a little bit of Derby in there. And I can't remember it ever being mentioned before. It's just been like, yeah, he's American. And I think it's something, the reason I can't think of it actually being said in movie is because it is something that's come up in conversation quite a bit, which is, they do it in JCVD, they do it in Arnie, as you've just said, Dan. Like, why can't they do it for him too? So I'm glad that they did do it.
Took him.
I'm not going to lie, I missed it this time.
Oh, it literally is like a line, Glyn. I almost missed it, honestly.
It's when he's first talking to Verona. It's when she's the second time. So she meets him. We'll do a plot synopsis in a minute, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
She obviously meets him at the house and she starts accusing him of being a murderer. And then it's when they both meet again back at the house. And they're actually talking this time. Well, actually, she's talking, and Stath is doing probably, other than the fight, my other favorite thing that Stath does, which is just be really still and statuesque and stoic. And she's just talking and talking and talking and talking, and he's just not saying anything other than like, okay, no thanks. Your mum's great. I like bees. Honey. He's doing very little, but he's doing quite a lot. I love that state. Yeah, that's when she mentions it, isn't it?
Yeah. I like that moment as well. Like, he's clearly like quite sensitive, and she goes like, and she is clearly, again, the cliche of the troubled detective who's an overdrinker and, eats poorly and doesn't really play by the rules, renegade cop, but she's like, do you want a drink? Can I offer you something harder? And he goes, no, but I will sit with you, which I thought was quite nice. Like he's, and again, she tried to get him arrested. She could have had him locked up. She could have brought him up on charges, like made up, charges, had him arrested, locked away, but she doesn't. And then he's like, your mother meant something very, very like a lot to me, and I will drink with you because it's a sign of like mutual respect. And yeah, I kind of wish they developed that relationship a little bit more later on down the line, because we kind of get into like full on action mode, and we kind of lose a bit of that connection, I think, towards the end of them kind of bonding over this loss. So I kind of missed that towards the end.
Mrs. Huxtable meant something to all of us, though, didn't she?
Yeah. Great casting, though, isn't it? Because of that connection that we have.
Yeah.
She was great, really. Like, yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, I'm not one for like, I like revenge films, but I like the moral quandary it has. Like, do these people deserve to be killed, or is this justice, or is it revenge, or is it vengeance? What is it? I really enjoy that kind of question. And sometimes when it's like, some revenge films, they're like, Death Wish is like, yeah, guns are great, shoot everybody we see who happens to be a criminal, and then the opposite is true, like something like Death Sentence, which is like, yeah, revenge is fucking not, it's going to ruin your life, so I always like that idea. But for me, I'm like a big Punisher fan, Garth Ennis especially, that dark, rich black humor he does. But his villains in those are the literal worst human beings you could ever imagine. So coming into this film, within seconds, I was like, I fucking despise every single person in this. Also, another thing that annoys me is I work in a call center too. And we are FCA regulated up our asses so much we can barely say anything outside of our scripting. So and which I was like, these guys are saying whatever they want and making millions. I hate you because of that, and I hate you because they're horrible people ripping old pensioners off. I fucking hate you. So on that level, they did an excellent job creating these Weasley horrible, disgusting, deplorable villains that I was like, fuck the bees off for 2 minutes and get these guys killed now. Get on it, Jason. Which he does, of course. But yeah, I have to say, like, I was like, I text Jack, I was that annoyed already. I was like, oh, I'm fuming already on it. I want to hurt them. So that's when you're like, a revenge actioner is doing its job. When I'm like, I mean, mostly I'm a pacifist for the most part. When I'm like, kill them all and let God sort them out. They've done a good job.
I thought especially that it's Garnet, isn't it, who's running the first one? He's running. Is it United?
United,
like Delta Group or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
United Data Group. Yeah, he's running that. He's an absolute weasel, and the guy who's playing him, I've not seen him anything before. I don't think David Witts. I mean, he's done a fantastic job, because as soon as he's on screen, like you said, Dan, he is just skin crawling, horrific, isn't he? The way he talks of him, the way he dresses. But I think when Josh Hutcherson's introduced as well as kind of white privileged Danforth boy, like he's the same. As soon as you meet him, you're like, fuck this guy. He's a douche, skateboarding around an office, asking for like massages in the middle of the day and wanting certain music being done and his sushi at a certain degrees temperature. They do all these things which are kind of, I guess, in a way, somewhat cliched, but they're things which I think unite us watchers to really want these people to be taken out by the Stath. What did you think of them, Glyn?
I mean, he wasn't a very worthy adversary for Jason Statham, was he, Josh Hutcherson?
Sure.
Yeah, I kind of think that's the point, though, because he is the white privileged male. Like, everyone's trying to protect him and look after him, and he's not worth it. Like, I think that's the point of the film, is that he's trying to, he's not worth it. Like, the CIA, the ex-head of the CIA is protecting him. His mother's protecting him. His mob connections are protecting him. And I love that he's trying to be like this Zen guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm very spiritual and all this." and like very like chill and like a yogi and stuff. But like behind closed doors is like fucking panicking and on the phone all the time and get him killed, Jason Statham right now, get this bloody B guy, which I love is the kind of like that. He has this false front, and then just behind closed doors, he's a panicky, anxiety-ridden like drug addict, mummy's boy, which I quite enjoyed that, because he's like, oh, I'm this new tech billionaire, and we can say a lot about the people that run like tech billionaire kind of organizations and stuff, and how dodgy they all are, and he is kind of in that vein as well, along with all the other stuff.
Yeah, it's very topical in that way, isn't it? This idea of like scamming people and tech billionaires and corrupt politics. Maybe that's another reason why this hit so well, because the people who the Beekeeper, Adam Clay, the Stath is going up against are all people who are real life villains that we see every day at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to go even more topical, we're looking at political assassination, aren't we? At the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Let's be real about it. That is only just however you feel about that and whatever your opinions are, it did seemingly just happen. So it was interesting to see that in this fictional film, not even like when was it out? It was out this year or just last year?
Yeah, this year, January.
There you go. It's no time at all. Not even 6 months, really. 7 months, since it's been out. So that's kind of crazy as well. Like, people say Simpsons predicted it, but even Beekeeper did too.
The Simpsons predictions are just absolutely bizarre. It's just it's nuts, all the stuff that they've predicted.
Yeah, even the Kamala Harris stuff. They're going, oh look, it's Lisa becoming president. They're wearing the same outfit. It's like that's just so weird. It's just so weird that it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's a magic. It's a weird magic.
Much like the Stath, he's a weird kind of magic too, which is why we're here talking about him. Says Jack, brain desperately working trying to find a segue. I mean, I think we're sort of talking about the plot structure and narrative without directly doing it, aren't we? I mean, yeah, sure. He's a beekeeper. He's on a farm. He's been looked after by the only person that's ever looked after him, and she gets scammed, so kills herself, right? And that kicks the story off. But I think, and then it's basically him, as you said, going out on revenge. I think what this does, interestingly, with that, is how quickly it moves. Like within 5 minutes, all of that's happened, and she's committed suicide. And then within like another 15 minutes, he's already at United Data Group and he's burning it to the ground. And that could have kind of been the finale in other action movies. And it's 20 minutes in of a really fast-paced, like very motivated to move forwards movie. So it's kind of like, where does it go from here? So I think it does that really well. It like, I wouldn't say there's anything surprising in this. Like the twist, do we even call it a twist? That the Queen Bee is Madame President? Were we surprised by the twist, either of you?
When I first watched it, I don't think I saw it coming. I don't think. It's hard to remember the first time I watched it, but I mean, as soon as you found out that he was his mum, I suppose you knew she was going to be. She certainly wasn't going to be a straight down the line sort of president.
I think I thought that she would be high up, like she would be a district attorney or head of the CIA, because they talk about him being a former head of the CIA. I was like, maybe she took over.
Jeremy Irons,
yeah, Jeremy Irons. Don't ask him about gay marriage, though. Whatever you do, don't ask Jeremy Irons about gay marriage. You don't hear that what he has to say on that. It's very odd. But he's like, I used to run the CIA. Speaking of bad American accents, Jeremy Irons is probably worse than the Stath is at this point. I don't know why they bothered to do it, but he did. But yeah, I think when I saw her in the kind of TV show, because she's getting like a makeup done and she's in one of those kind of foldable chairs, I was like a
Sorkin walk and talk, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And I was like, well, she's clearly important in some aspect, and I think I thought initially that she was in on the corruption. She was kind of in on the corruption and the money laundering or whatever, or scamming people off to pay for the presidential race or whatever you want to call it. I thought she was well in on that. But then we kind of find out later that she's not. She might have been sort of vaguely aware of it, but didn't maybe condone it, or couldn't know about it directly, or it couldn't be revealed to her. So yeah, there's some kind of, it's quite, again, that's quite vague whether she really knew or didn't know. But yeah, I think when I saw that, and then they started talking about the Queenslayer, I was like, okay, maybe. And then I started going up. I was like, what's more important, the vice president? I think I got to kind of vice president, and I was like, yeah, I think it's going to be, it's either going to be president or vice president at that point, when they were talking about the Queenslayer and stuff. So yeah, again, not really I wouldn't call it a twist. I think it was more of I'd say it's more of a reveal than a twist, I think.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. But they keep that motivation moving forwards, don't they? 20 minutes, United Data Group are done with. So what is he going to do now? Then it's like, it's him sort of moving up the layers, up the echelons of power, isn't it? To, as you said, get to the Queenslayer, or the Queen, and we're wondering if he is going to slay her, or whether that's going to go, I suppose, is the rest of the motivation of the movie, isn't it?
Yeah, each different honeycomb he goes to and obliterates and burns down. Yeah, so yeah, I think so. It's interesting as well because he's like, I don't want to hurt innocent people.
Oh man,
I'm like, mate, you definitely killed somebody. Like there's
loads.
There's I was like, there's not everybody from the other in that first fire. Not everybody from that building will have escaped, or even listened, or even paid attention that it would needed to be evacuated. That guy in the gas station,
yeah,
he's
blown up.
He's definitely dead, because the way they cut that, it was just like, oh yeah, can I borrow your car, or I'll take this, or what? I can't remember what the exchange he has with him.
Yeah, it's give me your keys for your car. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, and then literally the next cut is the thing at the gas station exploding, and I was like, well, he died. There's no way he got away in time. Like, there's no way. So yeah, I was kind of like, I don't really believe this when you're saying, oh, we're not doing collateral damage. I think you have done quite a bit. I guess it's like the Nolan Batman films, where you're like, that guy definitely died. You know, those guys definitely died, Batman. I don't care if you say you didn't kill. You definitely crippled them for life, or maybe they're brain dead. You know, but yeah, I didn't kill them, though. I didn't actively kill them. Yeah, sure. Whatever you say.
I guess as the Queenslayer, he just sees them as worker bees, right? As drones, as he'd rather not. But if they are, as you say, collateral damage, that's the right term for it. Then they're not doing enough to keep the hive ticking over.
Do we think that if you're a government beekeeper, you have to become a beekeeper when you're retired? Do we think that's part of the job description? Because I mean, he could have done something else.
He just loves bees. He's a bees man.
He really does.
Not the bees, not the bees.
I tell you what, though, when Garnet and he has like those hive mercs and they go after him on the farm, they find him a bit easy, but we'll glaze over that. But it's really upsetting when they shoot the hives and when they smash all his honey. I don't know if you both felt that way, but both times I've watched it now, because I watched it when it came out and then I watched it obviously for this. I found that really upsetting when they just like machine gun the hives and they go into his barn where he lives and they push over all the honey on the shelf. And I was just thinking, like, he's worked really hard to make that. That's really upsetting.
Yeah. Like he was looking at, when we see him looking after it, taking care of the hornets and all that. So he clearly cares about it. So I think because we care, we're already on board because the Stath's in it. So if he loves something, then we're going to love it. And I think, and it's quite shocking, I think, the way they depict it as well. Like it could be depicted in such a kind of like mundane, like, yeah, just shoot him, it's fine, whatever. But it is shown to be like, you know, like almost like a firing range, almost like these like prisoners are lined up, but it's these hives of bees. It sounds ludicrous what I'm saying right now, but that's how he feels about those bees. You know, very special to him. And again, that's the last thing. And I think it's almost like a Superman Kingdom Come situation where he loses not only all the people at the Daily Planet, but he loses his mum and dad, and Kansas gets blown up, and that's kind of his last kind of link to humanity. So, you know, Jason Statham's technically his last link to humanity is these bees and looking after him. That's his last. And, you know, it's the John Wick thing, isn't it? He killed the dog, he killed the bees.
Yeah.
And we're off. And you know, and he takes it as far as he can absolutely take it, you know, which again is John Wick all over. So yeah, but no, I did feel, I didn't think I would feel something for the bees, but I definitely did.
I'm pretty sure the bees would have attacked them afterwards because they'd have known who destroyed them, and they would have attacked the people. I would have thought.
That would have been quite interesting, actually, to see them all walked into the warehouse all covered in like welts, and that might have been quite a nice comedy moment. They've missed a trick there, to be fair.
Be fair.
Oh, here we go.
You know what I wanted? I wanted, like, that segment in Batman Begins where he calls for backup. I wanted
all the bats come in, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just stood there surrounded in bees, just like a tornado of bees, and like, oh my god, the bees are here, and it's like, and you could have, and almost that building they're in when it's I think it's the second location they go to, and he's beating up all the guys outside the FBI guy.
Oh yeah, the 9-star building, yeah,
and then he goes in, and then he's trying to take, Jeremy Irons' group of mercenaries he's trying to take care of in there. That would have been a good one to kind of drop the bee, do a bee, or maybe put some in the vents or something. I don't know. Again, maybe, I mean, I'm complaining that he's, leaning on the bee theming too much, but now I'm like, no, put more bees in. Let's see more bee attacks, please.
You want to go full Candyman now?
Yeah, I know. We did that earlier in the year, and that was very bee themed, very very honey themed, very sweet. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I stand now. Now I'm convincing myself that I kind of like the bee theme. As more we talk, I'm like, no, there should have been more bee stuff. Give me more bee stuff. But yeah, definitely.
Batman Begins and Batman reference is quite apt though. You just put that in my head, like that warehouse scene or like the barn scene is that kind of like in the shadows. I fucking love that scene in Batman Begins when it's at the docks.
Yeah,
it's like the first time we see him as Batman. It's so good. This has that kind of feel, like he's sneaking around, isn't he? Gets a screwdriver in the guy's eye.
Oh yeah,
the horse is there and then strangles him with a chain. I'm not sure why he went for the chain strangle rather than the eye gouge, but each to their own. But I love that whole scene. I think is really well done. And Glyn, I know you're a big fan of the Stath action movie moments. What did you think of that scene?
I think, I mean, all the killings was so bad. I mean, even when he just cuts his fingers off to disarm him, it's just so unnecessary. Like he did not need to do that to that squealing idiot. He'd have just ran away anyway, but he felt it necessary to cut his fingers off, and then the way he disposes of him at the bridge was just the best scene of all time.
That was one of my favorite dummy moments I've ever seen. Like
100%.
It's clearly a dummy. Like we know it's a dummy, and you can see that they've done it for real as well. And I love that. I like, bring more dummies back, even if they're bad dummies. I don't care. Bring them back. Like whatever you have to do, because I absolutely love that. And he's like, stay here. And he's like, where am I gonna go? And it's like, I love his whiny little phone call. And he's like, you cut my finger off, man. You cut my finger off. I'm dying. And then, just literally just straight. And again, it's like, it is that precision. Like even him doing that, the martial arts kind of rhythm is there. Even when he's like, right, car, phone, grab, ties him up, kicks it in gear, off he goes. And then pulls the phone out as he leaves, and like, yeah, he's dead, mate. In a bit.
Yeah, I'm coming for you. Yeah,
I'll see you soon. You don't know who you're messing with. All that sort of stuff. Yeah, wonderful moment you've pulled out there, Glyn. I mean, I almost kind of forgot it, and then the second you mentioned it, I was like, how can we not talk about this moment? This is one of the best bits in the whole thing. Oh, brilliant! And again, this is what I mean. Like straight away, we know he's manipulated. We know he's corporate. He's greedy. Like again, I've worked in call centers. I have known people like this. So in a way, it's kind of wish fulfillment for me as well. Some of those people I've worked with, I'm like, you disgust me. Not quite as bad, I think, as this, but on
Let's
that,
hope not.
Yeah, I think given an opportunity, though, if you push them far enough, they could probably go to these lengths. But yeah, I that was so satisfactory for me after like within it's within 20 or 30 minutes of meeting these characters, all of these horrible call center people, and he gets it, and he gets it like one of the worst in the whole thing. Yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, again, it's that kind of Garth Ennis Punisher Max stuff, which I adored. I got a very big vibe of that, and yeah, wonderful pick there, Glyn. Absolutely, thank you for bringing that out.
I wrote down two notes for those kind of two scenes. I wrote down Garnett got fingered, because I mean, why wouldn't I write that? And then I wrote Garnett dummy death, is glorious.
Yes.
And they both had exclamation marks because I was like, we must talk about these things. And you know, we've done it now. Yeah. I think a real high point of the movie, I think, is that whole section, is that that fight and seeing the Stath like just absolutely take names. And then the way he treats Garnett is, as you said, Dan, total wish fulfillment. Like that guy is fine, cool senses for your experience, but I think we've probably all met somebody like that at some point in our lives. And because of what he did to Mrs. Huxtable, yeah, absolutely, he deserved his end, didn't he?
100%, 100%, absolutely.
I had written in my notes that he was sent paragliding without parachute. I wrote for that scene.
Absolutely. Oh gosh, yeah, so good. I do think there are moments where I'm like, he's like Statham's walking around in broad daylight with no armor, and all these people are like, "Oh, get a clear shot," and I'm like, "You had a clear shot." Like and they're like, "Oh, I can't shoot him. Oh, and he's literally just walking around corners or in front of people or next to people. I'm like, he's really blatant, like, or he's just in the window, and it's like, oh, I think you could shoot him. I think you probably could shoot him. I do have to. I think with those moments, I was like, I do have to suspend my disbelief just a little bit more. I feel like there were better ways to present that than just him just like walking slowly by somebody. You know, I don't know. There was just moments where I was just like, I think you could have shot him at any one point at this point in the film. But yeah, that's that was just another like niggle I had with the film. Just it was just like, again, like Batman has like smoke bombs and stuff, and you can kind of understand that, and body armor, and you know he's a ninja and stuff. But with Statham, he's literally just like just going to walk into this crowd and then walk out of the crowd, walk around this corner, walk around another corner, hide behind a pillar. It was kind of, yeah, I don't know, but that was just my feeling on it.
No, it's fair enough. I know what you mean. Particularly the scene when you mentioned it before, like when he walks up to all the FBI guys outside the 9-star building. And he's like giving them advice on what to do and what not to do. And they're looking at him like, who the fuck's this guy? Why aren't they just telling him to get back behind a barrier or something? And then it quickly dawns on them who he is. But then, of course, as always, the takedown of them is wicked, is brilliant. Is how, and that's what you were talking about, Dan, about how he takes them down, he shoots them all in their vest, doesn't he? He makes sure he doesn't kill anyone, but he eliminates them from the equation for a while.
Definitely. But again, there are moments where I'm like, yeah, there's definitely some clash.
I hear you.
There's no doubt in my mind somebody died that he didn't intend to die. Just you know, even a stray bullet or a ricochet or whatever, or an explosion or a fire, whatever. I think something's definitely it has occurred. 100% that guy at the gas station. I don't care.
Yeah,
you can argue with me all night. The way they cut that scene, he definitely died for me.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same.
Well, that crazy bitch just minigunned everything, didn't she? So someone.
Well, yeah, we got to talk about her.
Yeah, no, you're right, Glyn. I was literally just about to talk about her. So it's brilliant that you've brought us there. What did you think about her and that scene? And does it fit with the rest of the movie? Because I watched an interview with the Stath earlier in prep, and he was talking about how they wanted it all to be on the realistic side. So the action is things which are not too over the top. It's not pushed out the realms of believability. I think he was doing what a lot of people do at the moment. He was having a secret dig at superhero movies. But yeah, I wouldn't have said she fits the realistic mold at all.
Well, the first thing I thought is she's Statham's replacement, but she's fucking useless. He kills her with a jar of honey.
Yeah. Useless and I know they're kind of set up that she's on the wild side. They're like, oh no, don't send her as replacement. She can't be trusted. But yeah, she's dressed so outlandish that you would just notice her straight away. She's like absolutely careens into the garage. There's no subtlety about what she's doing. I guess they want us to see her as being the complete polar opposite, don't they? They want us to see her in juxtaposition to Adam Clay, as he's called in this.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's the stoic one and she's the crazy mad one. And I think they were I think they were laying it on a bit thick that she was a bit crazy because there was like a little text message thing, and it's like, and it was, and like the way she responded, you expect that because everyone's like, you know, very pro-military speak, and then she's like, let's get to it. I'm gonna kill him and chop his knob off or something. I can't remember exactly what he says. I'm writing my own film here about knob chopping. But yeah, she said something that like doesn't absolutely fit with that world. So you're like, okay, she's a mad one. But then, you know, you see like this whole thing of like Jason sneaking in and out of places and being real subtle about it, like goes completely out of the window if that's their replacement.
Yeah.
And surely you would have met your replacement. Surely you might have even trained your replacement, maybe in some way. Or do you have like you have to leave, and then have a replacement? Like surely there are other beekeepers, not just one beekeeper,
trainee beekeepers.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, another hive of beekeepers or something. I don't know, but yeah, it did come out of like left field a bit. Like we've had this grounded story. We've had, like you said, the very grounded kind of realistic action. Like all he's doing in that call center is going in with 2 cans of gasoline. Really, it's nothing crazy or wild or like a bomb or anything like. I mean, it is a bomb, but it's like a homemade bomb. It's a believable bomb. And again, the action scenes, you kind of can, there's a bit of like, superhero-esqueness to it, but it's still fairly grounded. And then we get like just that one, batshit insane scene. And again, she drives up. She like no subtlety, drives into his car, into him, and then in the back pulls out a minigun and just absolutely just obliterates everything while in a gas station, while in like a petrol station. She has opened up, hell for leather on a chain gun. And I'm like, you are truly insane. No one's walking out of this if you've got a chain gun and this is how it's going to work. And you think, and you're supposed to be this, well-trained operative. You're supposed to, level the playing field for everyone in this universe when it goes wrong. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You bring order to the chaos. That's how they describe the beekeepers. They're like, they will bring down the government if they need to. They will, reestablish order. They'll do what they need to do, and they're on their own. They work on their own rules. With no foresight or investment or interest in any other these groups. So it just seems, it did seem a bit like odd. To just really completely just mad. And again, it's so short and it's almost like you probably could have cut it. You probably could have had another scene with, maybe Statham and the female police officer. Did you say it was Verona, was it?
Yeah, Verona, yeah.
Yeah. You could have had them on the phone like, I'm going to get your mum's murderers. I'm going to do it, and she's like, no, you're doing it against the law and all this. And, I don't know this. Yeah, I enjoyed it in isolation. But I think for the overall film, it didn't quite fit. It did feel a little bit like, Mr. David Ayer's Suicide Squad, comes in a little bit. Because again, they had Harley's in that. She's a bit Harley-esque. There's a chain gun in that. It did feel, and even the purple as well, kind of was like, okay, well, he's going, remember when I did Suicide Squad? I'm still waiting for that cut to come out, but I don't think it ever will. And I would have been interested to see that cut, probably more so than the Snyder one, to be honest. But that's my opinion. But yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe he's like not quite done with playing around with that kind of sort of stuff.
It's my least favorite section of the movie. I don't know. What did you think, Glyn? Were you a fan or are you in agreement?
It was just over the top. It was over very quickly. I mean, chain gun versus jar of honey. It was all a bit. I mean, and going back to what Spider-Dan said about just using bees and everything, when you had that sex conversation, did he not have a little picture of a bee at the end of each sentence as well? I think I remember that, like, whoever was speaking had a bee next to the writing as well.
Yeah, the fact she's got a manual in her car as well was ridiculous. That she is the beekeeper, so she would surely have known the manual backwards and forwards and left and right and from cover to cover by now. So that was a bit silly as well. She had a manual, but I understand it for plot mechanics. But yeah, I think it's the weakest section of the movie. It's the only time really I agree with that. And I think actually we don't need it. We just cut it. Yeah. We already know he's progressing to the next stage. We know he's going to go to the next building. We get the heavy exposition scene from Jeremy Irons when he's in talking to all the other mercs. So let's just get to 9 Star. Just cut it. I don't think we need it because we also get a weird 5-minute sequence of Mini Driver as well.
Yeah,
Very odd casting. I don't know why she turned up for 5 minutes here.
Well, I read on IMDb to keep like the costs low that it was all filmed in England. All of this was filmed in England, so it saved, because there was, I think, there were certain tax cuts and other stuff they could save. Obviously, Statham lives here, and a lot of the cast clearly English. You've got that head of the FBI comes in. I know he's an English guy who is like liaising with the president. Mini Driver, Jeremy Irons. Yeah,
the black guy.
That's right. Yeah, that fella. Yeah. I can't remember. He's in. I've seen him in tons of stuff. I can't remember exactly what he's in.
He was in EastEnders.
That'll be it then. There we go. I remember it from that. But yeah, you'll see like loads of English people kind of cropping up, with the odd American, obviously, like Josh Hutcherson and some of the other characters. But yeah, so I think that's probably might have helped it, because it's almost arguably like an indie film, like it's an indie budget. And I think, again, people know what they're kind of getting with a Stath film to a degree. Obviously you've been through the whole filmography, and he has varied, and quality has shifted, gone up and down. But I think for the most part, if you know he's going to punch somebody, you're kind of in.
Yeah. And I find, don't get me wrong, I mentioned she just before recording that I'd watched GoldenEye today as well, and I was like, Minnie Driver's in a weird little cameo in this as well. I totally forgot that. She's Robbie Coltrane's mistress, and she's singing in the background of one of the scenes when they meet. But I don't know. I just would have thought at this age of her career, it's just a strange role to take, unless it's with the kind of proviso of like, well, when we do Beekeeper 2, you'll be back, because she's like the head of.
Yeah,
he's Jeremy Irons' replacement as the head of the CIA, because he calls her, doesn't he, when he wants to talk to her about
he needs a favor
and stuff. So maybe it's a little bit of like you've got a small role in this one, but if it's successful, we'll come back, you can have a bigger part.
Yeah, it like, now you said that, it reminds, was it Parker you did with Jennifer Lopez?
Yeah,
and you were talking about her being in that for like kind of to further her career, or say that she can do action roles, do action stuff. She was in a strange place. Maybe she feels she's in a strange place, and this might kind of bring her some vitality in maybe in an action or the genre. Maybe like she could, maybe it's kind of that situation. I don't know, but it did, when you were talking then, it did remind me of that particular podcast.
And Glyn, as I've got you on today, I feel like we must talk about one of the mercs on Jeremy Irons' team. So the actor's called Michael Epps. He's like the main guy on the merc team who has the kind of stairway fight with the Stath, which ends with the fire extinguisher and the knife. He's got
a South African guy, is it?
No, that's much later in the house. It's when they're in the 9-star building. Do you remember that? And we've got the group of mercs that Jeremy Irons hires because they know that Adam Clay is going to go there next. And you've got a guy with a lovely handlebar moustache.
Oh, yes, I do remember. Yeah.
Just, when we did Killer Elite, we spoke about the actor, I think it's Lackey Hume, I'm not sure how you say his name. And it's the second time now we've done a film together with the Stath where somebody reminds me of Ray Purchase from Toast of London.
Yeah.
Because that's what this guy, as soon as he was on screen, I was like, Ray Purchase. Ray bloody Purchase. It's just a weird coincidence that it's two films we've done together that Ray Purchase has turned up in both of them.
He regularly fucks my wife.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Dominic Purcell in. Did you say Killer Elite? Did you say?
Yeah, so Dominic Purcell was part of the team, wasn't he? But it was one of the guys they went. It was the guy they went to kill. And they
sorry, yeah.
In the bathroom, yeah.
Sorry, I'll just be quoting Toast of London now for the rest of the podcast.
Exactly.
You've done it now. You've done it.
But it's also clearly a prerequisite to be an absolute see you next Tuesday to run these scamming places, because the guy who runs 9-star, which is meant to be like the main central hub, isn't it? He's an absolute bastard as well.
I read as well on IMDb that all of his lines are lines from other action movies.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So there, it says, again, I don't know if that's true, but anybody, I've written on IMDb, so who's to say what's real? Go and look at the Terrifier trivia. That's mostly my writing in that IMDb page. But yeah, apparently, like where he says, "Oh, I've just been thrown through a plate glass window." That's from Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice any of his other lines from any of the other things. But it might be worth going back and watching it again and just listening to his dialogue.
I'm gutted I never got to that bit now, because I would have picked out the quotes. I didn't get that far this morning. I've just not had time.
Well, it's a little mission for you when you get back
Mm.
or next time you watch it. Just go, okay,
Oh,
this guy, listen to all of his lines, and then see
I'll
where you can
definitely
pick
watch
up.
it again.
Yeah.
And in this scene, it's got one of the, you were talking about the cliches, Dan. It's got one here when Adam's been he's basically taken out the whole team and he's about to escape. And then he bumps into Verona's partner, Wiley, and he's on the floor. He's been knocked down. We know Clay's not going to kill him. I guess he doesn't at this point. And he's on the floor going, "Please don't kill me. I've got kids." That kind of like cliched begging line, I think, is so tired now in action movies of like, "I've got kids. Let me live." I mean, how many other people in that jump? As if you're the only person in the world that's got kids. Why is that the thing that that you think will allow you to survive? I don't know. I just think it's a bit trite and a bit rote and a bit done now as a line.
Yeah. I would write it as I've got kids and they're arseholes.
Yeah.
That would be
Go and kill them.
Go and kill them. They're really bad. You must say, if I'm this bad, they're awful. Honestly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But yeah, I thought you were going to talk about a different cliche, which was the T800 statue in the call center. Did you see that?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Which I think is them going, the Beekeeper is our T800. This is he's unstoppable. No one can touch him. He'll never be killed. And he does come into the building, not unlike the original Terminator film, full of people and takes them all out, doesn't he? So I feel like that's kind of a knowing reference. But I can imagine like nerds and call center geeks would have kind of shit like that anyway. And again, the lines in this from that guy are from different action films. Maybe one of them's from Terminator, maybe, and I didn't notice.
What did you guys both think of Wiley and Verona as characters in their relationship and I'm going to say comedy bants, but as people can't see, but I think they can probably hear in my tone, I'm doing air quotes around comedy bants. What did you think of those two?
Well, I thought when I watched it this morning, I thought she was the mother of his kid at first. I thought they'd been in a relationship.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Until I realised they were in the FBI together. I thought the kid, like the way he phoned her and she was hungover, and I just got the inkling that it was their kid together and they'd split up, but obviously that's not the case.
I think he's being quite sensitive because obviously mother's just died, I think. So yeah, I don't think it's that far of a stretch to think they're together. And then when
you see his wife though, his wife comes in when he's holding the baby.
You do, but I know what Glyn means though. Initially, if you don't, when you don't,
I think they're trying to lead you to believe that to start with, aren't they?
But also, it could be like, I think maybe you're also implying that maybe they did have a relationship at one point and it didn't work out because she's struggling with her, drinking and the way her life has been, and what have you. And he's kind of got it together and got a partner, maybe. So there's kind of maybe a bit of an inkling there. I think you are right, Jack. I don't think the banter works quite as well as I would have liked. I think I do prefer him to her because I feel
as well. I agree.
I feel like we lose a lot of her character throughout because it does kind of get to the point for me in this film where I know what they want to do, but I don't believe they want to do it. Why is Statham taking this all the way to the top? I know he's got to kill the guys in charge of the call center, but does he really need to potentially disrupt a whole nation with an assassination of the president? And then I kind of don't believe why she's going like this. There's kind of, again, I kind of needed a bit more between the two of them, even a few phone calls or a meeting, a secret meeting that they have, and going, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing it for your mum, I'm doing it for you, I'm doing it for the world. Yeah, I kind of towards the end again, because the action kind of takes over at that point. I'd say the last third, it's kind of just action, and you're here for the action. Kind of doesn't matter a lot of the other stuff. But yeah, I kind of just needed a little bit more kind of tethering to the ground of the story and why it's being done and why we need this. What is the purpose of this? Again, we get the cliche of the cop letting the guy go because they believe in what he's doing. But yeah, I kind of just needed a bit more between them to feel like this at the end. Like the Jeremy Irons bit, I was like, he's like, don't go in that room, please. He's like, what? Just don't go in. You're done. You're good. Retire. It's fine. Leave. And then he gets out a gun and it immediately just gets slapped down by Statham. And it's like, why was that even there? Why do we need this? I'm not sure. And then we get into the kind of final confrontation, which is very quick as well. It's kind of like, it did make me feel like an old kind of 90s, 80s action movie where it's kind of like, bish, bash, bosh. It's the end. Done. We don't need to resolve this. We don't need any epilogue. It's just over. He's away.
Oh, absolutely. Very Jackie Chan-esque actually in that as well.
Just like,
yeah.
Roll, cut to credits, roll the credits. We're done. Bad guy's dead. That's all we need to know. Game over, kind of thing. But yeah, I just needed a bit more between those two characters to make me feel more invested. I think in Statham's crusade a bit more, which unfortunately I don't think we got. And I think that's probably more unfortunate for her than Statham, because obviously it's Statham's film and we know he's going to do what he does. But I think she was lacking a lot of stuff. I did quite enjoy when he gets a concussion though, and he starts kind of saying random shit and acting a bit odd and a bit off. I quite enjoyed that, but again, it didn't last very long, really. I also thought he might betray them. I feel like I thought that he might be in on the, in with the FBI.
Wiley.
Yeah, Wiley. I thought for a second I was like, is he a bit dodge? Is he involved with? Because he's working with the FBI, and the director comes to see them, and there's a couple of shots where he's kind of looking a bit shifty, and I was like, oh, okay. I got a vibe that maybe he was part of the problem.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned John Wick a few times as a touchstone. That's definitely true, and I think their scenes are kind of Michael Bay-esque in terms of the way they're talking to each other and the comedy stylings of it. And Glyn, I know you've watched Bad Boys for Life recently, and you've been vocal on how good you think it is. I know that's not Michael Bay anymore, but it started there with him. And I think when that stuff is done well, it's good. I just, it doesn't, something about it doesn't work quite here. And I agree. I'm interested you're talking about the actress. It's Emmy Raver Lampman. I don't want to be disparaging about her. I'm sure she's really good. She never really convinces me in any aspect of the role here. I'm not convinced when she's being humorous or when she's being actiony or when she's being the boss and ordering people to do stuff. And that's why I'm interested for you to say it as well, because I sort of wonder if it's now that I'm on the wrong side of the age divide. I sort of look at her and think like, what? She's way too young to be doing that job. And then you look her up and she's like in her mid-30s. And actually, probably by the time you're in your mid-30s, if you've been a career go-getter, you could get to a high position within, a FBI. Or it's just because I'm an old man now that everyone looks young to me.
She does look good. She does look good for an alcoholic. I will say that.
Yeah.
I actually went on the FBI website the other night because me and my wife were watching something, and I was curious as to what an FBI agent makes. And you can join as soon as you've got a degree. So whatever age that is in America, is it about 20?
20s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then after 25 years, you can retire no matter what age you are.
For a second, Glyn, I thought you said you were on the FBI website. I was like,
well, I was on it, but I'm not on it.
That's what I thought you meant. I was like, is he a beekeeper? Is he trying to bring the whole system down? Is he going to slay the king or queen or whoever it is? You're a very mysterious man, Glyn. I don't know. Maybe you are on there. It could be. I've no idea your past.
I did things in Afghanistan that we can't talk about, but yeah, but I'm not a beekeeper.
Fair enough. I won't ask you any difficult questions, but yeah, just so you know, I just wanted to clarify that you're definitely not on the FBI watch list or anything.
No, I'm definitely not. No.
Glyn, you mentioned Lazarus. That's the other character. He's the South African guy.
Yeah.
And when he comes in, now we're at the party. It's the big end of the movie. Yeah, the president's there. Douchebag son's there. FBI are there marshalling the event, like not letting anybody in. Of course, the Stath finds a way, the Beekeeper finds a way. But also we've got Lazarus and this new now team of mercs. It's like mercs upon mercs upon mercs in this movie. He's another one that I feel like I like him. He's great in the role, but I just don't know if that role needs to be in this movie. It just feels.
I don't remember how Jeremy Irons knew him. How did Jeremy Irons know him?
I think it's just because it was a former because he was head of CIA, I think it was a former operative or maybe somebody he used to go after, maybe that he's now teamed up
Right.
with, and thought I can hire these guys. And then he killed a former beekeeper, so maybe it was the previous one to Statham. But again, we don't know what that is or what the situation is because of all the vagary about the organization itself. What I did like. Again, it is a bit over the top. It's almost like a South African Craven the Hunter, almost, isn't he?
Yeah, or I thought Ulysses Claw here reminded me of.
Yes, good shout.
Or
Good
Andy
shout.
Serkis's performance as Ulysses
Well, yeah,
Claw.
well,
anyway.
I mean,
definitely.
they're both missing a limb, aren't they? So yeah, I think that's a much better comparison, Jack. Absolutely. I tell you what, I did like though. You know how I like a good Statham cramped corridor fight scene. We've talked about it before on this podcast, and we get that kind of almost Enter the Dragon mirror room, but also quite a cramped fight scene as well. I really, really dug that. I thought that was brilliant. And again, very tight and compact and very unique movements. And, you know, I got a lot out of that. And again, it was the time where I felt a bit of jeopardy for the Stath as well. Like the only time I was like, I think maybe he could die. Potentially he could die.
Well, Lazarus stabs him, doesn't he? So again, it shows that he's not invincible. He can be hurt. It does affect how he can perform in the rest of the movie up until the end, which I agree, it's not long, but yeah, I agree that it's the first time there's kind of any real jeopardy, as you said, Glyn. Like Josh Hutcherson's character offers no threat to the Stath, but I do think that's a problem that has increased over the filmography, is that very little people offer a credible threat to the Stath unless they're The Rock or somebody like that. But this guy is big, he's hulking, he feels dangerous. He takes a lot of damage, doesn't he? And he manages to actually stab Clay. So yeah, I agree, Dan. I think this is probably the most interestingly choreographed fight in the movie.
I also think it's quite kind of positive thinking about like disabilities and stuff. Like you could think, oh, this man with one leg isn't going to be a match for the Stath. And you know, we do see the leg, you know, the sportive leg gets kicked away, and he's hopping about and trying to do it, but it's never, he never stops. It's not like, oh, that's it. I'm disabled now. I'm literally actively disabled. I can't fight anymore. He keeps fighting. I love that, and I thought it was a real kind of positive kind of, you know, depiction of somebody who has a disability and just fucking getting on with it. I thought it was really, really cool. And again, you know, it didn't stop him from like, again, it was not any, it didn't stop him from being a match for the Stath, even when his leg was taken away from him. I thought that was excellent as well. And again, it made the fight all that more interesting for me as well.
And then you said, we're into it. It's the end. It's the head of, that deputy of the CIA, president, her son, and the Stath in a room, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did we feel like this was a satisfying end? Did it get big enough, or did it get too small?
Let me try and remind myself, does Josh Hutcherson kill the CIA fellow, doesn't he? He shoots him in the head, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then he's got a gun to his mum's head and he says, like, I'm going to kill her.
So he's the head of the FBI, isn't he? He's the head of the FBI.
Sorry,
yeah, because she's the daughter of the mum that Stath was with.
That's right. Yeah.
And bloody what's her face? Goodwill Hunting.
Minnie Driver's the head of the CIA.
She's the head of the CIA who took over from Jeremy Irons, and the other guy who was in EastEnders is the head of the FBI.
Yeah,
he gets taken out, and then Josh Hutcherson's got the gun on his mum. Yeah. She's like basically saying, I'm going to disown you. I'm going to hand back my presidency. I can't believe I won it on money that you've scammed people out of. So he's like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah. It was like she's like, I'm going to tell the truth. I love that line where she goes, I'm going to tell the truth, and he goes, what does that even mean? Which I think in this kind of, you know, arguably quote unquote post-truth world we live in, I think that was quite an interesting thing, because, you know, he's doing these kind of mental gymnastics to say, you know, everything he's doing is fine. You know, there's no problem with what he's doing and what he did to support and help his mum. Like, he's like, I helped you, I made you. And she's like, well, I'm going to tell this man the truth and everybody else, and I don't care if it costs me my position. And that's when he's like, I'm going to point a gun at my own mum. That's what I
Yeah,
mean.
well, I guess he's still hoping. Yeah, and all of this gets a bit 24. I don't know how
Yeah, a little
well
bit.
you guys have watched, how much you've watched of that, but
Yeah.
it gave me those kind of heavy 24 vibes. And so, yeah, in the flick of a wrist, Clay kills Hutchison, shot through the head, doesn't he? And then he's off through the window and he's off down the beach. So I don't know. I guess we expect these films to keep escalating up, and it's quite nice that it's an intimate little moment, and
Yeah. Cool.
we've been alluded to believe that he will kill the president all the way through, and then he makes the decision not to. I guess he comes to believe that she is true to her word, so we as an audience should do that too. He is Judge, Jury, and Executioner, right? He's Judge Dredd here in this scenario. So
he is literally the beekeeper is the law, isn't he?
he is, yeah. I don't know.
Maybe
What
he
do
should
you
have
think?
jumped out the window onto a swarm of bees and got
Ooh,
away that way
like-
at the end, I think.
Surfed away on them. Yeah, nice.
You know what? They should have done the Spider-Man 3 Sandman, where he just kind of fades away, but he fades away into a swarm of bees,
Mm.
and that's how he drifts away on the wind. Reminds me of one of my favorite Marvel villains called the Swarm, who is a Nazi scientist who turned himself into a swarm of bees. That's a real character that exists. I even had an action figure of him when I was a kid, so that's probably why I like him so much. Just some Marvel factoid for you there. That's what I want in the sequel. There's an accident, radioactive, whatever, falls into, like Electro from Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, just falls into like a barrel of bees, comes out, and he can, disintegrate into bees. So that's my sequel. That's what I'm writing for the Beekeeper. The Beekeeper, the beginning, or something. That's what I'll call it.
Oh dear.
This is why I'm in Hollywood and nobody else. This is why everybody wants me in there. I'm gonna get in. I've got some great ideas up in this noggin of mine, right in my brain hive. I've got some ideas, mad ideas. They won't sell. They definitely won't sell.
No. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it or try and massage it. You go there. No, they won't. Yeah, and you like Dan, you said it before. There's like this hard out, isn't it? It's like the film's done. There's no like coda. There's no like woof. That was an adventure. There's no Verona and him on the There's no Verona on Wiley. There's no like 6 months later. It's just he gets the frog man out of it, and off he goes into the sea. And I can't help both times now I've watched it. His like kind of slow walk into the sea really makes me think of the opening credits. I don't know if you guys ever watched this, the Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin.
No.
No idea. No.
Okay. Well, the opening credits is I think it's meant to be like he's considering suicide. Well, hey, let's watch the show. It sounds fun, isn't it? And it's a guy like walking along the beach, takes all his clothes off, and then goes into the sea and like paddles out. And like the idea is, I guess he's not going to come back. But then
Point Break type thing.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. So I don't know. For some reason, that's just really in my head every time I watch The Beekeeper, as a very odd, obviously very niche reference.
Jack, I just brought up the Swarm, so I think I'm going to win. I'm going to win on the obscure references, so don't worry about it.
So for me, I think Jeremy Irons delivered the line of the movie when he said, when a beekeeper tells you you're going to die, you're going to die. I think that was a great line from Jeremy Irons. I think that was the line of the movie for me.
Fair. There's a few good ones in there, isn't there?
Oh, yeah.
I like the state outside the building towards the start when he says, like, I'm going inside, gonna burn it down. And he's just blatantly telling the security guards what he's going to do. And then the guy's like, I'm going to count to 3. And of course, I love this. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. There was one from the guy. That's apparently doing all the lines from the movies, and he's like, "When I tell my boss this, you're going to be so fucked. It's going to be beautiful." And I was like, "That's great. I love that. I'll take that." But yeah,
doesn't the FBI? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't the FBI agent say to that guy from the call center something like, "Where did you get your shirt? Did you steal it from a casket, you dog fucker," or something?
Oh, she does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good line, but I'm with Jack on that one. I don't think she was that intimidating in that sequence. I was just like shit, because even he comes in and I remember I saw a play a few years ago, and it had I think it was Lee from Steps. the pop group.
Okay.
He was in it. I'm getting to it. Don't worry.
Was it a tragedy?
It fucking was. I tell you. So there's a line that the other actor is delivering, and so Lee says something, and he's angry about it. It's an angry line, and the response from the other actor is, "Stop shouting at me." He wasn't shouting.
Oh no.
And I was like, fucking hell. I was like, if there's like, it's not even subtext, it is text. Stop shouting at me. Okay, that line, stop shouting at me. Maybe I should be shouting at her to get that response. And she's like, and she's doing it. She's like, stop shouting at me. And he's just not shouted at her. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. It's called JB Shorts, and it's written by the soap writers of things like Coronation Street and stuff like that. So they come and they do like they write little short plays, and a lot of TV actors come into it from different TV bits and pieces, and some of the actors I know just on the kind of fringe scene will be in them if they're lucky enough to get a part. But yeah, that was his idea of, like, I think he was hoping to get off the back of that something in a soap, like a Kim Marsh type, something like that. But yeah, it was dreadful. Yeah, it was like one of those. It was like one of those lines. It was just not good. Not good.
So as we're talking about lines, and we've been talking about puns, I think that's where we started. Can either of you recall, do you have a favorite B pun from the movie?
I'm going to say the to be or not to be.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
That's going to be mine. It was in the trailer, and I was like, it's cheesy. It's very 90s. It feels, in keeping with that idea, those kind of callbacks. But yeah, definitely that.
Mine's not a pun as such, but I think that the Winnie the Pooh line would probably be mine.
I did write it down, actually. She said, yeah, it's when she first meets the Stath, isn't it? When she first meets Adam Clay. Oh, who the fuck are you? Winnie the Pooh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's certainly in the realm of what we're talking about, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
All right. If you don't mind, I'll quickly read some letterbox. Is that right, Glyn? And then I'll get you to tell me whether it's a classic or a worth catching or a completist.
I think I reviewed this on Letterboxd, but I can't remember.
Oh,
I might have done.
Maybe I should start thinking about doing that. It's like reading, just really embarrassed the guests by reading out their reviews as they're sitting in front of me.
I mean, I've done it when you've not been on the podcast. I've asked permission to read your reviews.
That's true. Okay, Hart says, not that I expected anything from this, but wow, this is some real standard meh Jason Statham mid-January studio dump garbage. How was this not straight to streaming? Loaded with uninspired performances and a mind-numbingly dull plot. I can already see this remaining near the very bottom of my 2024 list. This feels like such a co-worker movie. You know what I mean? As much as I love Training Day, seeing the words written directed by David Ayer usually gives me a bad feeling. Not for me, a sticky mess lacking any real sting. Avoid like the plague.
Oh. Yeah.
My response is fuck them.
Oh. Not even like a witty B pun, some punnage there from Hart at the end there.
So diplomatic.
Buzz off, Hart. No, just
What a bumbler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's Max, when I've had him on, he often talks about this, isn't he? Like the wrong people reviewing the film. Like clearly he's not turned up watching what the film has been made for.
Yeah, 100%.
If you didn't sort of turn off your reality, like none of the 80s movies would still be, you wouldn't watch them because they're all so unbelievable. You've just got to know what you're going in to watch in the first place.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's surprised with the Stath movie that's what he got.
Yeah. I don't like that, people going into something that they unless you're being paid as a reviewer to go and do stuff. Why are you going to see something you if it's a genre you don't enjoy? Why unless you're committed to going, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and give it a try. I'm going to be open-minded about it. But if you're going into something you're going to be closed-minded about, what is the point?
100%. Somebody who is more open-minded to what we're talking about. Dan Tessring. This is the purest distillation of Statham as a presence. There is no character, just forward-moving action. It is unbelievably impressive and perhaps the best movie I have ever seen.
Okay.
There is something spectacular in the absolute stupidity of this. The way the Beekeepers, an elite super secret commando force, actually keep bees is all that needs to be said. It's a shame this didn't come out a few weeks earlier, as it might just have swept the Oscar nominations. Now, I know that sounds sarcastic, but like he gives it all the stars, so I think that's real.
Yeah. Hey, I like positivity. If he really enjoyed it that much, then fair play.
And I'd like to read one more if you don't mind. Marcus, a previous guest on the show, he says, "Oh yeah, that hit the spot. While it doesn't reinvent the wheel, see why I want to read this one.
Oh yeah,
The Beekeeper is a competently crafted beat of Statham nonsense, well choreographed action, creative brutality, Statham waxing philosophical about being good, Jeremy Irons chewing the beanery. It's just fun. Even has a surprisingly vibrant color palette, which I didn't expect. Is it my favorite round of Statham nonsense? No, but I had a good time, and its best moments, it had me buzzing."
Oh yes, yeah. Very good, very good.
So how buzzing are you two? Classic.
Has Lou Schumacher not reviewed this?
Oh, I tell you what, no. The last few, I'm afraid, Lou
retired.
Lou has. I've outdone Lou. I mean, I am now Lou. I'm afraid I've beaten Lou at his own game. Yeah, from about Fast X maybe onwards, no more Lou reviews.
That's a real shame. Real shame. But at least we've got all of our other opinions and all your guests' opinions as well.
It would have been nice to as like an arc, but what can you do?
Yeah, I don't know if you can find him or get in touch with him. I'm sure you probably tried, but
I did try. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, Glyn, I'll go with Glyn. We'll go with Glyn first, I guess.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Go ahead, Glyn. What do you think?
Remind me of the three things. I've just got a terrible memory.
Yeah, no worries. So classic, worth catching, or completist?
Well, for me, I couldn't tell you my top. This would be in my top 5 Statham movies. I think I couldn't reel off the 5 of them. Wrath of Man would be one of them, definitely. This would be one of them. So obviously, it's a classic for me.
Fair enough.
Nice.
Dan, where do you land?
Though I did really enjoy it, I do have. We've talked about it. I do feel like we've had the feeling of that we've been there and done that, because it is trying to be a little bit too John Wick. I don't think it has enough of its own identity, and I don't think the characters in it weren't necessarily strong enough. Like if you think of John Wick, you do remember a lot of the characters that do come back. Ian McShane and some of the other characters are really kind of iconic, and Lawrence Fishburne, like those characters, like they stick with you. The performances stick with you. Here, I'm not remembering Jeremy. I'm not remembering a lot of these characters. They are very just. They're there. They're tertiary. They're kind of just they're there because the plot needs them to be there a little bit. Again. Full of cliches, and there's some moments and maybe some writing choices. I think again it's filmed very well. I think it's edited. The cinematography is very good. The choreography, we've said, like Glyn said, is very, very good as well. But for me, I don't think it's a completist only. So I'm going to say it is. I'd say it's a high worth catching, but it is only a worth catching for me.
Okay, doesn't happen very often. Difference of opinion, but I mean, you're both singing its praises more than criticizing it. 100%.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, as good as John Wick is, it's created so many wannabes and so many rip-offs since John Wick come out. There's so many movies coming out where it's on the same sort of wavelength and the same sort of one-man army sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm on my podcast. I'm always doing like clone bores of rip-off films or exploitation films that are like something's really successful. Let's make another Jaws. Let's make another E.T. So it always happens. And Hollywood always learns the wrong lesson. Like when Deadpool comes out, we get a load of like Deadpool clones. John Wick comes out, we get a load of John Wick clones. And some of them are good, some of them are all right, some of them are just garbage. But it will always be that trend, I think you'll see quite often.
All right. Thank you, gents. Dan, what have you got coming up? This is due out at the beginning of August. So I know that you and I, we're spending a lot of time together recently recording lovely podcasts for both you and myself, but there'll be a bit of time in between when people get to hear yours to mine. So what else have you got in that interim?
Well, let's talk about the one we've just done days ago. It is ending up on the last week. We're in the last week of July now, so it will come out on Friday. I think we're recording this what day? Wednesday? We're on Wednesday now. I've lost track.
Wednesday now.
I've lost track. We recorded on Monday. I edited yesterday. I'm doing this today. I'm doing one with Matt B. Lloyd. I'm not sure when that's coming out, but I'll talk about that one as well. And then I'm seeing Deadpool and Wolverine on Friday, so it's a busy week for me. I think I'm just going to sleep this whole weekend. But yeah, so we did Cosmic Odyssey, which I thought was a really fun podcast, really fun book. And yeah, it was something that was a little bit out of your wheelhouse as well, which I think was interesting. Obviously, we wanted Max there as well because it's kind of more of his expertise, but he couldn't make it. But I thought we did an amazing job, just the two of us, and I think we talked about every little detail. We went on longer than I thought, but I think we kind of needed that time to
there's a lot to cover.
Through. A lot of references,
It was an odyssey.
Absolutely, yeah. And we weren't turned into pigs or anything, luckily, in this one. so yeah, we made it out at the end. But I thought it was, again, I kind of miss doing comics, so I'm going to try maybe doing next year a bit more kind of comic book stuff, comic book related stuff. Speaking of comic books, we know I've just done, speaking of Max, we've just done X-Men 97 on Comics in Motion. We did a whole show, really good series of podcasts, exhausting, but what a show, what an amazing just time. And Dave and Max and all our guests were amazing and really added something to those discussions. So inspired, now this is kind of spoilers for the end of X-Men 97. So Tonya, if you're listening, I mean, she's seen it actually, so don't worry about Tonya. So yeah, anybody who hasn't seen the end of X-Men 97, I think Mike hasn't yet. So if you're listening, go away for a moment. So there are two very big teasers to what is coming in season 2. And I've decided, because of scheduling, I'm just going to do 2 solo podcasts in August. One I've already recorded, which is X-Men: The Rise of Apocalypse, which is kind of his origin story, where he comes from. And then also I'm going to do the adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, which is on their honeymoon. Their psyches, their minds are transported into the future. They go into donor bodies and they raise their biological son, who's in the 40th century, Cable. So we see the kind of origins of Cable as well. And it's also kind of the alpha of Apocalypse being born, and then kind of his omega, kind of him as an elderly kind of mutant and coming to the end of his kind of days, sort of thing. So yeah, a whole kind of spectrum there of X-Men stories to look at. And again, if you're interested in what's going to come, again, I can't say it's going to be a faithful adaptation of either book, what they're going to do in the show. Again, it's kind of being rewritten because the head writer has been excommunicated, let's say, from the show now. So they may rewrite some of the stuff he had and rework it. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that, and yeah, so it's going to be a kind of a quiet one, a chill one. I know people tend to prefer me doing movies and stuff, but I do love comic books, and I do a lot of comic books over on Patreon, which you are a lovely subscriber to, and they're usually movie licensed ones or comic book continuations of existing IP or properties or media, you name it. Tons of those over there to listen to, and I've dropped the Cosmic Odyssey one early, but yes. And I'm doing a Spider-Man podcast with Matt B. Lloyd, which is just going to be kind of a general discussion about Spider-Man and what we feel about the characters and storylines and villains and that sort of thing. Maybe I'll bring up the Swarm again. Who knows?
Fantastic, mate. Lots to look forward to.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I'm really, really having a good year. I want to get back on the Patreon and get more stuff out a bit more kind of, steadily and frequently. But yeah, no, it's been really good. I'm having a real blast this year. I've enjoyed everyone's Patreon picks that I'm definitely still doing, but I've filled up my quota for this year now because of the delays and reschedulings. But all those podcasts will happen on one level or another, and then even more.
Bro. All right, thank you, Glyn, as well, and thank you everyone else for listening and partaking in this journey with me through the Stath's filmography. That was The Beekeeper. Next up in a fortnight, film fan and festival organizer Tessacat will join me to consider the Stath's highs and lows and try to rank which of his classic rated films is the finest of his career to date. I'm Jack's Musings, that's JACS, and you can find me on X where I'm most active. You can also contact the show directly on X or Instagram under the name Back to the Filmog. Make sure you use the hashtag #FollowTheFilmography. I'm also a proud member of the Comics and Motion family, a super place full of the world's greatest people, dedicated to bringing you podcasts on a variety of geeky topics. So please make sure you take the time to search, subscribe, and rate our shows whenever and wherever you listen. Until next time, be excellent to each other and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers.
Cut.